Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Town of Monroe Planning Board Workshop Meeting, Thursday, May 13th, 2021. We're going to start with a roll call. Jason?
Jason Trowinski here.
Jeff Manson here. Bonnie Franson should be joining us. Anthony Vaccaro?
Here.
Lisa McQuaid?
Here.
John Allegro?
Here.
Pat Shea?
Here.
Okay, so with that, we have a quorum and we can do business. I'd like to start by pointing out the fire exits. There are two fire exits directly in this room under the exit signs and with the glass doors, through the door that we all entered the building in, and through the door over here and out to the left. If I can ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to Okay, so our first project tonight is the Raywood Drive project. Put the microphone on, Joe.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
If you'll please reintroduce yourself and bring us up to speed on where we're at with the Raywood Drive project, please.
Sure. My name is Joel Mann, on behalf of the applicant. It's good to see you here in person. So we didn't see you a long time here. But so basically, this project had received conditional approval, site plan approval, conditional site plan approval a couple months ago. Since then, we're working to meet the conditions and what is outlined in the conditional approval. There's still some open items that is not done yet. There is a lot of coordination between one of the main things is between the village attorney the town attorney about the water agreement. I think there's waiting for a final sign off for the plans. Maybe it was signed off. There is a list of items that still needs to be done, so we're here for an extension for at least for 90 days, and we hope that in that 90 days we will be able to meet all the conditions so the site plan the subdivision can be signed.
Thank you. Sean, any?
We're waiting on, we had reviewed the cost estimate for the public improvements. We had some comments on the cost estimate. We're waiting on those to be returned before we can finalize the plans. And then I know there's agreements and easements.
Yeah, there was a request about, I think, the ward files for the easements. So we're working to get that. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll have that. Yeah.
Now, okay. Sorry, George. So there is the easements that we had mentioned. I'll have some revisions to those, and then the water agreement. The town's reviewed it, and I think is in good shape, but there was an issue that was discovered during that review with the corporate status of the property owner. We're working to back into active. Until that time, everything's kind of just on hold because you can't enter into any agreements with a non-entity. So why we're here. I would advise that you can motion to extend the conditional approval. You grant them in 90-day periods. You could grant it the closest planning board meeting in that 90-day time frame is August 12th, 2021. So if you grant the extension to August 12th, 2021, that way in case something happens where they need to come back, you're already going to have a meeting that day.
So from the original resolution, when would their timeline run out?
May 16th, I believe.
Oh, okay, so we're on top of that. what are the issues with the, hi, Bonnie. What are the issues around getting the entity active again?
It's something that the applicant, they have to work out with the Department of State.
Complicated,
really in there.
complicated process, or?
I really don't know.
Fine.
Well, my understanding is that they hope it should be resolved in the next 2 weeks. Based on, they did already file wherever they need to file. I wasn't involved in the details, but they should get
Yeah, I know they've
back.
been working on it, but
Yes.
things take time usually when you're dealing with the state.
Any questions from the board? Certainly. So we're just reviewing the possibility of doing a 90-day extension on the Raywood Drive project. There are a couple of outstanding issues and an issue around the applicant themselves and their ability to move forward as a legal entity. It's something just that they have to resolve with the Department of State, that they're in the process of doing, and sounds like this time frame should give them enough to get those outstanding issues resolved. It would take us through August if we do the extension.
So this is the LLC, having to do with the LLC? This is having to do with the LLC?
Yeah, with the
A portion of
corporation.
it, yes.
Okay. So I guess it comes down to, is there a time frame, a maximum that we're allowed to give as far as extensions?
Do a 90-day extension, so the closest planning board meeting date within that 90-day period is August 12th.
Okay.
So if you do it to that August 12th date, that way in case they needed to come back, you'd already have a meeting.
And if they get it done before then
Yeah, then nothing, I mean,
it's,
we had said there's a few, the easements, that water sewer line easements that we're going to be finalizing the details on that, signing then the water user district agreement, signing the plan. So if they get everything accomplished before then they wouldn't need any other extension.
this project has been in play, it's been approved. These are sort of technical aspects having to do with the corporation, and if it needs to get resolved, then, I don't see personally why we wouldn't, extend the time frame for the approval. And that's my feeling.
Fine, then with that, I'd like to make a resolution that we do an extension on the approval for Raywood Drive through our meeting on August 12th to give them the opportunity to get these last issues resolved. May I have a second?
Second.
That was pretty close, Noreen. Who's?
I heard John first.
Fine. Okay.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson. Aye. Jason Sorinsky,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Okay, so with that, the motion carries, and we'll be moving on to our next project, and I'll be turning the meeting over to our chair, Bonnie Franson.
Thank you.
No, I thank you.
All right, well, let me hook myself up here. Hopefully I have the right ones saved. Is Target the next on the agenda?
Joel
I don't.
Stossel.
Yeah, I saved the revised one, but there must have been revised to the revised. Hold on. Hangsy onsy. Oh, that was after we moved it because of the holidays? Correct. Gotcha, okay. So why don't you begin, Joel, while I get myself set up for the... haven't yet. I'm going to pull up the agendas first to get them on my desktop, and then I'll hook them in. Thank you, George. You ready, Joel?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay, you go ahead, and I'll get myself set up while you're speaking.
Okay, so basically, here again for this applicant. So the history we had, I came in actually in the middle of the last application, try to help out this applicant here. The proposal at that time was to add a handicapped ramp outside of the building, and the approval was, we're supposed to prove that we're not encroaching anything in the parking lot or the parking lot aisles. Also, with that, there was a requirement for architectural review. So at that point, the applicant has proposed a new design of the exterior of the building. The main focus based on the designer was on the big circle at the front of the building. And according to it's the zoning code here in the town, we cannot have any sign more than 2 feet higher than the roof. So we had a problem. We're supposed to cut it down. There was some revisions back and forth. So at this point, when the applicant finished the design and looking what the design of the building is, the applicant's designer advised them that this is not that you want at the beginning. It's not that look. It's not that attractive. So for now, and with all the costs, with everything, the applicant decided that he wants to stay with the building as it exists right now, and subject to if the board will have any recommendations for minor adjustments. With the proposal at that time, there was a lot of proposal to build up soffits in the front and the sides, and landscaping. So the landscaping, I believe, has been changed because we're still talking from covering the ramp with something. But if you can see, based on the application, you can see there's an existing pictures and there is a proposed rendering. So the difference between the existing pictures and the proposed renderings are actually basically the signage, that it's not there on the moment. That has been slightly revised from the previous application just to match in within the existing building. And the second thing basically is to add a color to the ramp that will match in with the building. I believe that the lighting is also similar that was approved at the previous application. That's something that I believe that nothing has been changed. So with all of that, we're here, and I want to comment one thing. I got just received the letters from Sean. There was the floor plan that went through together with the package is just a mistake. There's no floor plan because there's no changes. There's nothing. This is actually from the original application that came in, that originally the ramp was a different way, but it just disregard that plan. It's nothing. So there's no change to the floor plan. There's no change to the building. There's no structural changes. Everything is the same as the original approval. It just changes to the facade of the building as trying to keep it mostly the same as it exists now, rather than going and do a new design on the outside of the building.
All right, and as you've been presenting, I'm trying to get my screen up so that we can look at the photos, et cetera. George, I have the HDMI in, and it's not going to the screens. You saw it?
This screen is on.
Oh, ours, we don't see it on our side.
Anthony, can you touch those cables?
There's a green light showing.
Maybe the cord isn't
Is it
connected?
the cord isn't connected in? Okay.
Hi, Noreen.
Those cords in front of you, has anybody touched those? Maybe you can touch those.
Oh, yeah, that should do it. Look at me, I don't know.
You can blame it on me.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a proposed. I think you should try to put maybe the existing photos with the proposed ones next to each other, so you will be able to compare it.
So this was the photos that were in the application?
They were a lot bigger. I didn't bring those up. They're downstairs.
Finder one?
Okay, that's existing.
All right, so you want to walk us through these photos?
What? So that's existing now,
Right, and that's not what was approved.
correct?
So what other changes have made at this point, been made? Other than so the stairs were built,
The ramp was built, there's a ramp.
Right.
and So
The ramp,
everything,
sorry.
there's no changes, actually. There's no physical changes to the building. The only thing that that they want to change from the previous application is basically to keep the building as it is now and not propose any new changes besides the signage that will comply with just modified with the previous, from the previous approval, because previous approval, we had built up a soffit on the top of the building, so now we need to keep it lower.
Although the ramp was proposed to be concrete with metal railings,
right?
whereas this is wooden.
Right, so this stairwell that was built is not in compliance with what was approved. So it's not just a matter of not building what they said, it's that something was built that wasn't approved.
Was the material of this, just trying to remind myself if last time, as part of the approval, was this metal and concrete?
Based on the renderings, it was.
Okay. I have here the one. The railings were definitely metal railings, yes, but
Was the design book we were given. That is the ramp. This is from June. What was the one that was approved? Because I know that obviously
August.
we didn't have the,
It was
the large,
dated July 29th, or was there a later one?
August.
721.
The last one was August 16.
I could email that.
All righty. Thank you, co-pilot.
I see now, yes, you're right. The pictures are showing that the metal railing, and it seemed like from the picture that's supposed to be from concrete.
So there was going to be consistency of the colors. They were going to use stone, uplighting. The 501 was going to be some kind of illuminated address.
Yep.
You could
Yeah,
see
but
the metal railing, and the metal railing, there was going to be landscaping, not basically gravel.
Top of the ramp,
At the top of the ramp, the door
And
surround.
the wall sconces are shown there, but
Got a sign here, Williamsburg Pediatrics. And I think in
Color of a lot of the siding changed from black, now it's going to be white.
The proposed design at the top of the ramp was double doors. It looks like glass double doors. What exists is a single metal door at the top currently.
Correct.
Correct.
Planter was there was going to be the tiled planter that was removed?
So basically, the whole kind of the whole design feature, that nothing from that has been done so far, and that's what he wants to change and keep it as is existing with the minor possible modifications on the existing building as per.
Well, from my perspective, that's not entirely what it is. He actually went and built a ramp. I keep calling a stair, a ramp. And the ramp does not meet what was in the specs. So from my perspective, we have an applicant that put all this together. The planning board has architectural review authority. The site is visible because it comes off of, you're coming off of 208. We all agreed to what would be done, and then basically it was thrown out, and he didn't adhere to it at all. And now he wants to come back and essentially do basically none of it. And I personally have a problem with that. If he had come back and said, we looked at this for whatever reason, these are the changes we want to make, that's one thing. But he basically went forward and decided to build whatever he wanted. So that's my reaction to this. I find it a little disrespectful after we went through the whole process of working with them. So I don't know why we wouldn't still adhere to what had been approved. That's my reaction.
Joel, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a second occurrence. The reason why the applicant wound up in front of us in the first place was he removed all the windows from the building, which was a change that wasn't permitted, that wasn't, right? This was a building that had already been approved. It's a change that should have come before the planning board originally. The answer that we got as to why at that point was something about the architect said you have to do that for medical privacy. And personally, I kind of find that a weak answer.
This was actually my next question. So because when I came into the picture, I remember there was a question if we want to move on with the exterior, proposed exterior design, and maybe, or we want to separate that from the ramp and do just the ramp for now, and then later come back with the revisions to the exterior of the building. I know there was a problem with this.
But the ramp was going to be the ramp that we approved, not do the ramp and don't adhere to the design that was approved. And this is unacceptable, period. And that was part of the changes, is to change the siding so that this is not what we're looking at, which is basically someone decided to put some plywood over windows.
This is now existing, or this is at what happened at that time the first time? I believe that now it was covered with siding.
I believe that's why they came the first time. They had covered up the windows and had built contrary to an approval originally, so they came to the planning board to get that approved, and then also the ramp, which there was talk about splitting them because they thought the architecturals were going to take longer to get that approved. They ended up just going forward with both of them at the same time.
So this is binder 1 that was supplied to us as part of this application. That's the rear of the building that we've been given.
Okay.
This was a building that, had been a medical facility before. It had fallen to disuse for a while, or it was used lightly. And, the applicant picked it up, made changes that they didn't get a revised site plan for. In my opinion, the changes that were made were not for the better. It took a building that wasn't looking good and frankly made it worse. I was over there tonight. The siding that's put up makes it look like a commercial shed. The area is, there's no landscaping. The grass from the area of the ramp all disappeared and was filled with rock. That was not what was proposed here. It doesn't look like an interim step. Some of that rock is in the parking lot. The parking lot is coming apart. it's item after item. And frankly, we spent from January 2020 until we got a resolution in August. We spent 8 months on this to come up with what we thought might be an acceptable solution for the applicant.
And I would only add that the proposal that was provided to the planning board came from the applicant. So we weren't necessarily out dictating what had to be. We reviewed something, suggested changes to some of the material elements, but it was the applicant's own architect who provided these to us, and we found it acceptable.
Acceptable. Yeah, I fully understand. So basically, my understanding is that there is it's more than two issues, but let's compile it in two issues. The number one is that the portion that he's keeping from what has been approved, for example, the ramp was not built according to the approval. And the second thing is that the exterior facade of the building. So
let me poll the other board members, just ask everybody else their opinion.
okay.
So, Jason?
Yeah, where do we start on this? This is ugly.
Raise your mic, Jason.
Yeah, this is a pretty ugly building. I remember talking about the windows. I thought that was very weird. There are plenty of ways to work around that. One-way glass, for example. Privacy glass, there two right there. But the grass, it just doesn't look right. It looks like the parking lot just kind of blended over into the building instead of, a building set forth somewhere. It looks like it was just kind of plopped in the middle of a parking lot. That's it.
I just want to clarify, this is pictures from the existing, but it's not to be proposed to stay like this. There is the proposed plan,
On the mic, please, closer to
the proposed renderings.
So while I bring those up, Lisa or Anthony, do you want to add comments?
I would just say that I agree with how you characterize this, Bonnie and Jeff, and I agree with you. And I think when the application first came to us, we were work with the applicant to minimize the expense, but there were certain details that we want to clear up with terms of the pavement and the property line. And so I agree this is not a good situation.
Lisa, you want to?
Question about the sign that was taken down, because it's in the picture. It's in one of the pictures when you can see from like the far end of the parking lot, you can see the sign that was taken down. Is that going back? No, it's the Williams Pediatric.
So I don't think the Williams Pediatric, has it been?
Yeah, no, go back a picture. It's leaning.
It's on the
Oh,
ground.
over here,
Yeah,
this.
you see where it's leaning there?
Was that a temporary sign?
There's a better picture of what, yeah.
Right here?
Yeah, you could see it. Is the sign going back on the building? Yeah.
What is the question? If this sign is now on the building?
I'm going to go back on the
No,
building, because I
no,
thought in
there-
the renderings.
No, look on the next, the other PDF, that's. where
I'm
it's
sorry,
showing
I just
everything
thought
what's going
that the
to be-
sign was going to go back on the building, so I was curious.
No.
Back to the renderings?
Yes. Not this one. This is the old one.
Joe, closer to your mic, please.
This one. Yes. So that's basically the proposal for now.
Back one more.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not proposed to keep their stones where it's now. It's they got stopped by I believe that what happened is they got stopped by the building inspector because things are not in compliance here. That's where. So this is the proposal now, is basically not to build up, not to change the siding to red, but at least maintain the siding, do back the doors will be done, the lighting will be that way, the signage will still stay. So, and the wooden ramp will certainly be painted and covered with bushes, or there's another option that we can actually cover it with a plate so you don't see the columns under it. But that's other options on the table.
Also installed lighting that was not approved.
I understand. If that's something that will not comply, we'll need to remove it, so.
John? Or Pat?
Yeah, Bonnie, that prior photo?
The existing or the one that was approved?
Not
or
existing, the one that you just,
This one?
no, the one that showed the sconces and the facade.
The existing photos?
No, not existing. It was a rendering that showed,
Probably the old ones that,
This is the old one.
the
right,
approved
is
one.
is that the approved one?
Yes.
Right, so that's where I think, we need to be. I drive past this building every night, every day, and I was kind of surprised to see the pressure-treated wood ramp. And, this looks presentable, what we're looking at right now. I think that's where we have to be, and I, agree with everything that all the other board members have said prior to my comments here.
Pat?
Nothing to add that hasn't been added already.
I'll let,
Bonnie, I have a question.
Sure.
Are we saying that they have to take the wooden ramp down?
well, I think it's a discussion, so they clearly violated the approval by putting something up that wasn't approved. They have come up with an amended application so that they can, I guess that they would request that the planning board approve what they did construct. And so we're here to listen to the amended application.
With the landscaping looks better than the rocks, and maybe it's something that we were, based on what the approval was, yeah, I don't know that it's finished just yet, but it doesn't look the same. But I don't know that the ramp needs to be taken down. That was my question.
I would ask our attorney with regard to that as far as, what we can approve, how we can approve it, if we can require that the approval that was in place be the one that we, continue to uphold and deny this one. So I think that's just a general conversation we have to have in terms of what we can and can't do. But I think first, Sean, if you want to have some comments, and from an engineering perspective and maybe a Ben perspective, I think there's, in my mind, a question as to whether that ramp, does it comply with code? Does the door comply with code? Just overall, has what has been constructed in relation to the building, the doors, there's also this downstairs area that's by the ramp that we can see kind of here. Is all of that meeting code? And in fact, the windows themselves, this has become a windowless building. Is the egress and everything that's supposed to be required by building or commercial code met for this building? And it might be a Ben question, but I'm curious.
So I'm not an expert in the building code, so I can't answer that, but I can certainly speak to Ben as well as our architects, in our office to find out
Okay.
if that's it. Number one, if Ben has even seen a building permit, and secondly, if, has he done a comprehensive review of the whole building? So.
Actually, that's a good point. Was a building permit actually submitted when they built the ramp?
I believe so. I believe there was a building permit, they got a building permit, and I think they then reviewed the full building. The full building is in compliance. When you have no windows, basically you can change it out for mechanical ventilation and lighting and everything. They had a medical architect who proposed all that plan, and I believe the plan is in compliance. And the same thing is with the ramp.
So the building, you're saying our building inspector issued a building permit for a ramp that hadn't been approved by the planning board?
I'm not sure which type of ramp was approved by the
Or
building inspector.
did he approve a building permit
That's
thinking
all-
that you were going to construct the one that was in the rendering?
I will tell you the truth. I wasn't under the impression, even with the approval, I was involved in the approval last time, that the ramp was restricted to be concrete. I don't remember any discussion about the type of material of the ramp. The thing where I know for sure was the railing. The railing for sure you can see is metal, even though you can maybe do it from wood pieces, but I don't think it was specified. And the other hand is the ramp by itself can be done from wood and can have the same look from wood, just with a little bit of coverage. And so that's not something that, at least to my point of view, I believe that but I'm not sure about that, how the building permit was. So actually there are records on that, and I think we should check on that before, so.
So I'm just looking at some of the details here.
There was all finishing details, but nothing was describing the actual material of the ramp. So, for instance, if the planning board will decide now that the applicant needs to meet 100% with this look, there is still a possibility with the existing structure to have this look. It's basically the structure is not something that you can see. You can cover that with any type of panel that has the finish that you're seeing now on the finish of the outside of the ramp, and the same thing on the top. But the structure by itself can stay the same.
So you're suggesting adding a facade, if you will, to the exterior of the ramp to make it match that facade, but the substructure, if you will, would remain to be the ramp that was built.
Correct.
But Sean, isn't the elevation completely different?
I think it's just the way the rendering was shown. I don't think the grades are necessarily shown to match what's actually in the field, in the rendering.
Okay. You know, when you drive by, you see a lot more of the posts sticking up. And
no, the approval was more on the facade. We basically would try to have the roadway we tried to have on the plan to have basically the parking lot boundaries and the building, but there's not like you can see the actual grass or landscaping what is there. This was not the matter of the last planning board approval.
I think what John's saying is the ramp looks like it's sticking much further out of the ground than what's actually shown on the renderings.
in real life, yeah.
I think that's just a rendering issue, not a...
Yeah.
In my mind...
I was just going to say, Sean, did you have like engineering comments or other
sure.
comments? And then we'll open up again. Thank you.
Just going through the application, I noted a lot of... Hit mute. So I just noted a lot of changes that were made that were different than what was actually approved. The application itself had some conflicting information. Joel, I think you clarified some of it. There was an interior architectural layout that was submitted with a different orientation of the ramp that Joel has said that is not being proposed. They're not going to change the orientation of the ramp. The EAF was submitted. It does note that the ramp is being proposed. That'll have to come out. And the EAF was incomplete. So that'll have to be completed. I think we'll have to talk to Ashley as to whether or not we'll need a secret review, if a change is warranted. Again, some of the lights changed. I should say locations changed. They added wall sconces to the front of the building, the side that faces 208. They took some away. I already noted the one next to the door that was at the top of the ramp. Although the lights, the cut sheets on the lights, if you will, the specifics on the light are identical to what was approved. So, but this time I think it's just architectural review that would have to be done, since the site is not being, the site layout is not being changed from what was approved. So.
So if we look at this, then it's the same. Where the proposed ramp is, the door, the way that you get up the ramp is the same, because here it shows that you come from the concrete walk, and then you kind of follow the building, and then you go up. I just want to see.
Generally, in the first picture.
Following here, coming up to a pedestal and then up. John, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, that ramp, you know, from when you head north on 208 is so it's very visible. And if it were my decision alone, I would have to see a drastic change that's much more visibly appealing if this wooden ramp were to remain. You know, I'd have to see some kind of siding surrounding the bottom that we all approve of, that is in concert with the rest of, well, I don't even want to say that, because the siding and the rest of the building is kind of hodgepodged at the moment, but it would have to be visibly appealing, and we'd have to see some landscaping around it in order to, like I said, if it were my decision alone, even consider allowing the wooden ramp to stay. And I think that would also include the metal railings around the ramp. I mean, you know, right now this looks like something that's outside of somebody's house, and I see this just deteriorating more rapidly than something at somebody's home because of the amount of traffic that we're going to see on that decking. I'm also looking at, Bonnie, the photo on the right. I see maroon siding next to brown or black siding. So I don't know, you know, it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, or I don't know that was there before. It almost looks like it was added
Yeah, I don't know.
after. Was that there before? I had the photo.
I think it's part of the new, it's in the new rendering, but not the old one.
But is it actually?
There was a red or right in between.
I can't tell from this photo whether that color was already there or not.
It's actually shown that way to remain in the renderings.
It looks a lot nicer on the rendering than it does in real life.
Windows still there and they're just boarded up, or? like Jason's idea. I mean, if they're still there and they could be frosted or some other way, to see a windowless building is also, for me, visually unappealing.
Anybody else have comments?
Joel?
So,
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Actually, what I'm going to do also, I'm going to bring up and compare this to what's been submitted.
I don't even really see how you have the renderings that were presented with this with this version of the application, along with the pictures of what exists. And the change in the signage on the front of the building, I don't even see how that's going to be accomplishable on the left-hand side, where there's a ductless air conditioning unit right there where the 501 is proposed to be in the rendering. Again, it's not visually attractive. I mean, you know, HVAC is HVAC, and it is what it is. But honestly, to take this application under reconsideration, it'd be a nice step in the applicant's part to go through the property as a sign of good faith, get the property cleaned up, get a lawnmower in there, sweep up, get the garbage out of the parking lot. You know, certainly don't make any changes. Don't make any more changes, but tidy the place up. Like I said, I was there tonight, and it doesn't look good.
So I don't know, Ashley, if it's appropriate now to kind of talk about options that the planning board can take and how we should proceed.
Sure. So you can't take any final action today because this is subject to GML review. So before taking any final action, you would have to refer it to the county. There is, the applicant submitted all of the forms. They're not in the correct name. It's owned by a corporation. This was an issue with the last application. They submitted everything properly, but everything's in the individual's name. So, you know, they have to submit the proper forms to really even be considered proper name. You have architectural review authority, and we could talk about those standards and what those involve, the appropriateness of the exterior design, the arrangement, texture. I think the planning board gave some really good feedback tonight. I think if, Joel, if it's acceptable to you to go back, talk to the applicant, see what exactly you want to propose, what changes. I mean, it really wasn't clear. We had to go through and pick out what's different from what was approved and what's being presented, which that was, you know, a little difficult to do, but kind of present what is proposed to be changed. What do you really, after hearing this initial feedback, what do you really think you still want, you know, you want to change, or how can you get it more in line with the original approval? And once everything, you know, is properly submitted, we'll refer it to the county. I think that's really the...
So at this point, we can't make a decision, and we need to, I think you've heard what everybody has said. Well, we go through this process, you know, we took a lot of time. You know, we worked with the applicant. We came to a design that everybody thought was attractive, work with the project, and essentially the applicant went and did what the applicant wanted to do and didn't finish up any of the changes, essentially just built a ramp. And that's not acceptable from my perspective. So I think you need to go back to him. Right now, my inclination is to, you know, continue to support the original design. And you know, maybe there could be, well, you know, it's up to the entire planning board, but I think something that is more attractive to that highly visible location than certainly what's been done to date. Everything that's been done to date is kind of piecemeal, hodgepodge, doesn't have a consistent theme or character or architectural theme. And, you know, I feel like you've come in with renderings that are, well, okay, this is what we did, so can you approve it? And for me, that doesn't work. So, as Ashley said, I think go back to your client and return to us if there's any changes, that he will make, to submit them to us. And if not, if he's sticking with the proposal, then we're going to, decide on what was submitted. And as far as the ramp is concerned, I think that, and we'd have to look at the minutes and look at the record, but clearly a ramp was shown that did not look like it had a wood decking, certainly didn't have wood rails, and putting the metal on it implied that it was being stuck and anchored into something other than wood. So I'm not kind of supportive of this argument that, well, it wasn't really specified. I think the renderings present a picture of what was anticipated. And it showed a hard surface, not a wood surface. It showed metal railings. It showed stone. It showed materials that are clearly not what was installed. So I think that's where we are, unless anybody has something more to say this evening.
I'd just like to reiterate your point that the applicant prepared these renderings in the first place, and that's what the board approved. They didn't necessarily suggest any of those materials on the first application. So.
And then perhaps, Sean, if you could do a little research, talk to Ben.
I will.
Find out if this ramp went up without a building permit.
Sure.
Let's see where we are. I think that it was, and I'm not completely sure, but I think this came about, Ben had maybe seen that it was not built according to the plan, so I want to say maybe there was a building permit based on the original plan that was obviously not what was constructed.
Yeah, because I know at some point I went by the site when I saw the ramp had been put up, and I don't recall who I sent the email to, but and perhaps it was even you, Sean, I just said, this doesn't look like what we had approved. And the wheel got, turning, and it's possible that they got a building permit, but basically the expectation from Ben was he had a set of plans in front of him and renderings, and that's what he expected, and what actually went up might have been different. So, let's talk to Ben, see where he is, and we'll meet again next month. Yes.
The other thing, I can't fully remember, and I'd like to go back to the minutes, but I remember that there was a large discussion about the base map that was used for the proposed plan and where the actual line of pavement was to circulate around the property, and that was supposed to be resolved before going forward, and I don't think that was done.
That showed actually encroachment into the roadway. But after that, the ramp was redesigned. We got an actual survey from AFR, and everything was addressed, and that's the way it was approved. So.
Bonnie, one last.
Yes, please.
Well, I'd ask you to go back to the client and, ask him to remember in all this that what he's proposing here is for a medical facility. It's a medical office. There are two practices that are operating in the building. When I think of a medical practice, I want something that looks clean. I want something that looks professional. And this is neither of those. When I go into a medical facility of any kind, doctor's office, hospital, I want to feel some confidence in the place I'm going into. This doesn't accomplish that. So his tenants are not getting the benefit of that. It's an unusually architected building. I get that. I lived here when it was built. It is what it is. We have to work within the constraints of that. But the original plan that was approved at least maximized what was there. But what we're seeing minimizes it.
You're talking from the existing condition on the property.
Yeah,
I understand.
exactly.
Okay. I got enough messages to deliver to you.
Thank you for hearing our messages. All right.
So I observed everything tonight, so
Right. So if you have anything else to submit, in advance of the next
I
meeting,
will,
please do so, and then otherwise we'll reconvene next month.
I will let you know if, whatever, we'll check with the applicant how he wants to proceed, and based on that, we'll let Noreen know if we'll be on the next meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
I'm sorry, I didn't make this up, so,
Sorry?
I'm sorry, I didn't make this up, so
Okay.
have a good night.
So the next item on the agenda is Suris, 12 Country Court. This is the apartment that keeps coming back. And under a different name.
On an architectural review.
All right.
That keeps coming back.
Thank you. Mr. Nemeko, welcome.
Is it on now? Yes. Okay. So hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone healthy and in person. And it remains to be seen if it's good to be back. Let's see. So as Bonnie had mentioned, yes, we're back before this board regarding 12 Country Court. Back in 2019, 2020, we were before this board and the zoning board to receive approval for an accessory apartment, which we did at that time. That accessory apartment was less than the 750 square feet allowed as dictated by the zoning code, and it was confined to the first floor. That meant that the Gomez family needed to make modifications to the existing, for lack of a better term, apartment that they had, because at that time it included a stairway up to a second floor, which had a bedroom, a bathroom, and closets. We prepared the architectural plans to show those areas removed and the apartment limited to the first floor. The building department issued a permit based on that. Apparently, the work was not done, and the house was sold to the Suris family. They purchased the house based on the listings and upon seeing the accessory apartment, which is needed for her parents, especially her father, who is dealing with renal disease and really needs a separate bedroom and other facilities away from the main house. So we realized the building department was out there. He issued the letter warning the family that something needed to be done, but this was, I believe, 6, 7, 8 months after they moved in. Now we're here before the board to request this process again, and we know it's evident that we have to go to the zoning board. So we were told to come here first, so we'd like to have the board's referral to the ZBA so that we can continue the process. That process being an accessory apartment that would be approximately 1,450 square feet, and it would be 2 floors. That existing stair remains. It was not removed, and as promised or as warranted or dictated by the plans that we had submitted. So we ask that you consider this application and please refer us to the zoning board so that we can continue the process. It's imperative to the Suris family that they get this type of accessory apartment or this type of setup.
Why don't we start, were you able to do a review?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll start with Sean and Ashley, and then we'll go out to the board for comments.
Sure,
Thank you.
Mine is relatively short. Basically, I'd reviewed the accessory apartment section of the code, which is 57-44. More specifically, subsection A2C states that any accessory apartment which exceeds the maximum habitable floor area, which Dave had explained is 750 square feet, shall be deemed a two-story dwelling. Since it's a two-family dwelling, it is not a permitted or special exception use within the zoning code, so it would need a use variance. And then procedurally, we should ask Ashley how that should be referred, but yeah, I mean, basically, I don't think the planning board can proceed any further with that. One thing I would note, though, since a two-family is not permitted in the zone, in the zone that the house is located in, the ZBA should weigh in on whether or not site plan approval will be necessary for the application, so that it can be referred back to the planning board if necessary, if site plan approval is necessary, or if not, if they can just proceed to a building permit.
Thank you. Ashley, do you have comments?
Just touching on that, so if it's a use variance that's required, that actually is something that the planning board can't refer directly. It needs to come, there needs to be a denial letter from the building inspector. So in the past, what we've done is I've written to the building inspector and asked for that letter, so that way you could appeal that and go to the ZBA for the use variance. So if that's how the board wants to proceed, I could prepare that letter out to Ben and ask that he issue that denial or determination. I mean, my other comments were based on the accessory apartment, code provision, seeker, but if it's not going to be an accessory apartment, it's really going to be a two-family. As Sean said, it's going to come back to whether or not they're going to need, if that use variance is granted, whether site plan approval is required.
Exactly. So we agree. We want to move ahead to the ZBA to start that process. I will note, the plans that we submitted were the architecturals, just of the first and second floor. We submitted the survey that was recently done, just to confirm there's no change in footprint, no change in the exterior of the building, and the other aspects of the drive that was required by the planning board at that time was done.
All right, with that, who would like to start comments?
I have a question.
Okay, Lisa?
David, did you say that the apartment was not constructed before they sold the house? Something wasn't done before they sold the house.
When I was before the board for the Gomez family, the existing conditions included a kitchen and living dining area on a first floor and a bathroom, and stairs that went up to the second floor that had a bedroom, bathroom, and closet. Those stairs were separate from the main stairs of the existing house. So those conditions existed. We were before the zoning board and the planning board to get the approval of an accessory apartment. In so doing, they would have to have eliminated the second floor access from the first floor. To do that, the stairs would need to be removed. You were not allowed to go from the accessory apartment into the main house. So removal of the stairs, the door, fire rating of the separation wall was required, things of that nature. Those improvements were not done. So when they...
Sorry, if I can just interrupt. I did speak to Ben regarding that.
Yeah.
He said they were done, and he confirmed that they were, at the time of CO for the accessory apartment. And after that, they were added back in, so.
That's right. I
good
recall that
clarification,
after they got a CO, they then unconstructed the proper accessory apartment and went back to the
Internal stairs. They took down the internal stairs to satisfy the condition of the accessory apartment.
And then they put the internal
they-
stairs back in.
They did.
Who did that work?
The prior owner.
My understanding is the prior owner. I'm not sure Ben is 100% sure, just because he hadn't visited the site, after the CO was issued, so.
And I agree with all that. That was a better way of clarifying the situation. The current owners have pictures of the listing that showed the conditions with the stairs and the apartment, and what they based their decision on in purchasing that house.
They're talking about constructing an addition upstairs then? Or is it already there, they just want to make it part of the
Everything
apartment?
exists. Actually, the plan I provided you, it's all
Yeah, I
there
was looking
already.
at it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's already part of the house? They just want to put the stairs back in and make it, or the stairs are there, actually?
The stairs are there.
I was just wondering what construction was going to take place, but there is no construction.
There is none.
Thank you.
This is really a logistic process, well, at the current time, right now, it's a logistic process to get it approved. No construction is really needed.
So, David, take me back to the time of the original application for the accessory apartment. In the space that is the first floor, what was there at that time?
Exactly what's on the plan, right, that I have before you. The kitchen, with the bathroom, the living dining area, and the stairs going up to the second floor. And that's what we had shown. And then when we went to the permit process, we had to eliminate those and barricade them off and remove them.
Do I remember correctly that when this originally came to us with the prior owner, that an accessory apartment had already been built without approval?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm just trying to timeline this out as I remembered it and from what I gathered back from my notes. The original application was to get approval for something that had been done that it hadn't gotten a building permit for, that hadn't come before the planning board. So they built an accessory apartment. We conditionally, on removing the second floor access, getting it down to what is approved, what is, according to current zoning, we came to a resolution to accept that on, I don't remember if the first floor was being reworked to like create a bedroom area, again, I forget all
Like
that, but.
a studio, yeah.
Right, it was gonna be like a studio. And then after that, it sounds like they went in, did what they were supposed to do, and then undid what they were supposed to do, and then sold the house in that condition. Do I understand the general story?
That's my understanding of everything.
As we
yes.
understand it, right. The only thing we're not 100% clear on is, did it happen under the prior ownership or under the new ownership? You're telling us that there were listing photos and that kind of thing. Any idea if your applicant has copies of those photos still?
Yes, I believe so. We can submit that. It was sent to me on a drive.
Okay.
I could not access it, but we'll definitely show that to the ZBA and things of that nature.
The home in question?
Yes.
I was just checking to see if they.
I think once it's
Has 'em.
sold, they take them down.
So I did bring up the accessory apartment renewal denial, and it says to Mr. and Mrs. Surrey's and Mr. Aviles. Is that individual still part of this application?
Yes, and my mistake. So, Mrs. Soris and Mr. Alvarez are married, and Mr. Jesus Soris is the father. So there's 3 owners of that have this house.
Okay, so Mr. Aviles and Mrs. Surrey's are married, and then there's a Mr. Surrey's who is the father.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have comments? And actually, I'll bring up the original denial letter. I think this might be what you're referencing. So I have a question. How big is this apartment relative to the overall size of the unit, not including the garage?
I don't have an exact answer on that. I mean, the apartment as proposed, where they're looking for 1,440 or 50 square feet, I think the overall house has got to be approximately 3,000 square feet in addition to this. Somewhere near there, 2,800 to 3,000.
Bonnie, according to the tax maps, the total house is 3,900 square feet, and the apartment is proposed to be 1,475, is that right?
1,450, I think.
1,450.
Yeah.
So,
That's a pretty substantial. To me, is it connected in any way to the part of the house? Or is it going to be separated into 2 separate units?
It has to be separated. Even the accessory apartment within a 750 square foot perimeter would need to be separated from the main house.
So, from my perspective, it feels like this is a 2-family house now, as opposed to an accessory apartment. When we're going from 730 to 750, in its own area, but this is going to be 2 levels now, and a bedroom upstairs, correct?
A what?
A bedroom upstairs?
Yes.
And separated from the other unit, it seems to be a 2-family dwelling. Not meeting necessarily the intent for accessory apartments. So ultimately, it needs to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes.
For a use variance. And they'll make the determination whether or not to allow it as an accessory apartment or to grant a variance for a 2-family dwelling in a single-family neighborhood.
I think it would be a use variance for a 2-family dwelling where it's not permitted.
Anybody else have anything else to express? No? Any other questions? So Ashley, what should our next steps be at this point?
So I can write a letter to Ben requesting that he issue that denial or determination letter. That way the applicant can appeal to the ZBA, because that's needed to get there.
All right, and then, ultimately, you're going to be heard by the ZBA. They'll ask for the photos, they'll ask for how did this come about, and it's their decision whether to grant the use variance or not, so.
I understand.
Anything else want to add?
Just real quickly, your applicant's ready to meet the burden of proof for a use variance?
That's something I need to discuss with them. Obviously, there are implications associated with that. I do believe they have position to do so. Yeah.
And your applicant are aware of that?
Yeah.
They attend this. It would be nice to.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can definitely request that.
That's all we can do at this point until the ZBA takes this up. So, thank you. And View. Update on where you are with this application?
Yes. Well, we just received the comments. I haven't had time to review them. So this has been a process, as you know. We've been working with this for quite a while. Just to give a brief summary, I made application to Orange County DPW for their approval. Ultimately, we received it. So what has changed in this design from the previous design? So I'd like to just go through that briefly. We had to move the drive 10 feet to the west to increase the sight distance associated with that. So in moving the entrance 10 feet to the west, we had to reconfigure the subdivision line to accommodate the lot areas needed for each lot and the lot coverage. The driveways, as you can tell, the driveways immediately outside each garage are huge. They're 20 by 40, which increased the impervious area quite a bit. I mean, no, actually 28 by 40. I mean, the areas outside the garages are immense, and the DPW wanted that so a car could turn around, but it definitely impacted the project quite a bit, which made us reconfigure even more with the lot line associated to the north of lots 1 and 2. In so doing, we were able to accomplish that. We had to relocate the houses a little bit to accommodate that drive and that increased area outside the garages. We did achieve a sight distance of about 321 feet. That included grading along the DPW right-of-way to decrease the embankment, which would allow an increase in sight distance. So we're here before you I was hoping to wrap up the project. Again, I just did not get to review these comments in depth. I mean, there are certain ones that are repeat that I know we have approval for already. I mean, we have approval from moving the sewer basin even on this design. They don't want the gravity-fed system. I mean, that's come up quite a bit. That's why we're showing it as a part of the force main. So, I mean, the comments regarding the sewer are definitely something that's been addressed, and I believe you have the documentation associated with it. The sewer easement being 7 foot wide, I think that's generous. I mean, it is definitely a scenario where excavation can occur to reach the sewer lateral or sewer force main. And, you know, we believe that suffices. The other comments regarding, well, you have our letter from Orange County DPW. We are aware of the other letter. The process associated with the wetlands or the town approval of the wetlands, that was something new, I would say, you know, to this thing. So I guess it's something we'd like to discuss what that process is, and you know, and take it from there.
If you'll go through your comments, and we'll hear from Ashley. And Ashley, when we get to you, sort of where are we in the process? Because this has been in front of us. Preliminary, public hearings, sort of what do we have to go through at this point? Thank you.
So my comment number 1 has to do with the new layout of the lots. So lot 61, which is the one that faces or accesses off Walton Terrace, is proposed to be 14,422 square feet as the net lot area, which is below the required lot area. So that lot would need an area variance as currently proposed. David had touched on a couple of comments, but I'll just, so, 61. The plat for the subdivision should include the proposed sewer easement with the meets and bounds, so that's on the filed map.
Yeah, we requested a meets and bounds descriptions for all 3 lots, and also we supplemented that with a sewer easement, haven't received it yet.
So the impervious cover calculation appears to be a little light on the square footage, which does affect the lot area, the net lot area. So that should just be double checked. We'd previously discussed that it's on a scenic road, so those notes and, discussion with the board should be had. Again, with the force main, I realize that the MUDNA has approved, I believe that was the old layout of the force main?
No, but we reapplied.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely reapplied, and we
But as currently proposed, all the homes would tie into one central force main, which will require New York State DEC approval as a sewer main extension. I had previously suggested that each home have its own separate force main, which would not require sewer main extension. So just something to consider.
If it's something we could discuss with MUDNA Basin, I mean,
Sure.
We feel compelled by their thoughts on the matter, so.
Sure, but, as currently proposed, it'll need DEC approval. So there's a pavement restoration detail, which I would anticipate would be for the disturbance to Walton Terrace, which is a town road. So the pavement detail will have to be updated in accordance with the town code. David had touched on the wetland buffer. Since Walton Lake is technically a wetland as defined by the town code, they'll need some type of permit, maybe based on the disturbance that's within the buffer. It could be considered administrative, but I think you'll just have to demonstrate that, going through the code. We discussed or brought up the 7-foot wide easement for the sewer, something I wouldn't suggest if I were designing it, but it could be feasible to build with 7 feet wide as opposed to the previously designed 3-foot wide easement. Jeff had brought up at one of the last meetings, he suggested the rain gardens for each one of the homes to help with the stormwater treatment and quantity reduction. Again, the impervious cover allowable, the maximum allowable can be increased per the planning board, with a waiver from the planning board if stormwater quality is proposed. So it's something for the applicant to consider.
Yeah, we did have that at one point. I mean, we could reintroduce that to
Right.
help with the with lot 61 if need be. Yeah.
Exactly. You may need to look at it for all the lots based on.
Well, we're definitely, there's no question about it. You can see in the bulk table, we're right on the thresholds. There's no question about
To be honest, I had done my own calculation on the impervious cover. I think it's significantly more than what you're currently proposing. So. And one thing we haven't discussed is the acceptance by Orange County Department of Public Works on the proposed access drives from Lakes Road. So, we should also be aware of that Orange County Department of Public Works letter regarding the sewer. The lot is located outside of Orange County Sewer District Number 1, and therefore cannot be approved at this time because the town is over its current allocation at Harriman, side of the sewer district. Over to Ashley, Pine and Seeker.
So Seeker was previously done for this application back before my time. I think it was 2019, before the public hearing was held, but obviously, since then, the application changed substantially. Back in, I think it was August, when you came back with this, it was now the conventional plan. We talked about how the prior application was considered withdrawn, and this was just a new amended application, so we'd have to go through seeker. You haven't yet started that process. I think we got the EAF after the last meeting when you were before us, so it would be appropriate for the board to declare its intent if you're going to do a coordinated review. We could circulate a notice of intent to the other involved agencies. I think there may be some different ones now was back then. The plan would also have to be referred to the Orange County Planning Department. I don't know whether that's, I think you had said in your letter it's been done. We'll have to just check with Noreen if the new plan's been referred or not. I don't know if you know offhand. No.
I think we would normally send it, because
Yeah, I usually send it, and I don't know whether, I'd have to look. I don't remember tonight.
If not, we'll get that out as well. As far as the sewer service issue that Sean had touched on in that letter from Orange County DPW, so that letter says that the planning board can't approve anything for an outside district user unless, let me just pull it up.
Which letter are we referring to?
This was from the Orange County DPW. We had talked about it at a prior meeting, and I know you had went to DPW for the driveway, but
Right.
they didn't address the sewer issue. It basically, the town doesn't have sewage capacity for any development project that's located outside the boundaries of Orange County Sewer District 1, so the applicant needs to demonstrate sewer service before any project could be approved. So, and if you don't have a copy of that, we'll certainly send it to you as well.
I don't have that.
Okay. Because obviously that's a big issue, being able to have sewer service to serve all of the lots, so that's something that needs to be addressed with Orange County DPW. I don't know whether they could agree to let you in. I don't know how they will handle that.
Muna Basin's handling the sewer.
Right, but they're not within our
Right.
town is currently under allocation at the plant through the Mudna agreement.
Right.
And therefore, the county will not allow the town to approve any additional users outside Orange County Sewer District Number 1.
is there a digital version that you want to send me so I can bring it up?
Number 30, date of the letter.
David, I just sent it to you as well, so you'll have it.
I'm waiting for my phone to go off. This property has a basis, for rights to sewer. They've been paying the taxes on it forever. Decades and decades. So there is a basis to not be denied access, for the sewer.
I think that's something out with the county.
All right, well, thank you for sending that over to me. I'll discuss it further.
Just moving on, a couple more comments I had. I think Sean had mentioned that road is a scenic road, so the scenic road buffer and those notes that accompany that. And also now that you have the driveway location settled, Monroe has that tree law where within the area of disturbance where you're removing any trees, I think it would only be in that area where you're removing for the driveways, and in the scenic buffer, you'd have to identify those trees.
Yeah, that's becoming
do a
common
replacement.
within all of Orange County, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's, I can give you the code section, it's 57-84. And then the code section for the scenic buffers is 57-21.4. F4.
Good news is they're providing one access point.
So I think it hadn't, because I don't think there was ever really tree removal involved in this application, but now,
Yeah.
there is. It's just going to be, I think, for the driveway.
And one of the things with the scenic roads is to try to minimize disturbance, so it's actually a good thing that you have a single entry.
See that? We did that purposely.
Yes, very good.
I think a lot of the disturbance, a lot of the clearing is due to, there's a lot of grading on the east side of the property, so.
Yeah, in the right of way.
And, with all subdivisions, before approval, you have to address public improvements and any recreation fees. But as far as moving forward tonight, I think it would be appropriate to classify the action as unlisted under seeker and declare your notice of intent to be lead agency, and then I can circulate, you could authorize me to circulate a notice of intent to the other involved agencies, which I believe are...
Are we going to need
Oh, as far as that, so I think Sean had mentioned the lot 61, the net lot area. Would you be reconfiguring the lot lines to
Actually,
avoid a
we
variance,
meet
or?
it. We'll revise it to show that we meet it.
Could we talk about that? Could we talk about that then? With regard to reconfiguration? So which is the lot that needs to be reconfigured, that it doesn't meet it?
The one that's off of Walton.
So the 18-4-61,
Correct.
which you're enlarging, which I like.
Yes.
Because that is a small lot, so it's nice that
Yes.
they'll have some yard area. So the one thing that it'd be nice not to have this strange little jut out here. So if there's some way we can configure this so that they don't have, it's like this little triangular area. I know you need to grab the acreage, but could we kind of maybe somehow make that line?
Well, isn't it within the planning board's jurisdiction to allow us some consideration with that?
That was with the cluster. This isn't a cluster anymore,
It's
right?
conventional.
Yeah.
Then,
So-
if not, we have to
so-
leave the line the way it is.
I was just going to say, can we do something that's more like, hold on a second here. And again, I don't know what the area, sorry. Kind of straighten out that,
Bonnie, if we could.
if you can meet the area requirements.
We are at the thresholds, and Sean, he acknowledges that. We did it in Civil 3D just to make sure the delineations were correct and bulk. We confirmed the areas. Any change, you'd have to give us some consideration.
So are two of the lots at 15,000 then with the net? Because I
Yeah.
saw 19, I saw 20, and then I saw the
I think,
15.
David, are you talking about consideration with the impervious coverage, or?
Yeah.
So there's that provision where the maximum coverage is 15%, but with proper stormwater quality control, based on, Sean's review, you are able to increase that a little bit. I don't know the number exactly off the top
Okay.
of my head, so I think that's what,
Gotcha, so you're not talking about the lot size itself, you're talking about the amount of impervious surface area
Within the
per
lots.
lot. Gotcha,
Right.
okay, I wasn't
that's why
understanding.
they need to,
Yeah.
And Ashley, that applies to conventional also?
I believe
I believe
it's
it
to
does.
anything
Oh,
just
okay.
in the in the watershed overlay.
Overlay, right.
Does it?
So what Bonnie's referring to is the net lot area for Lot 61. You show that the net lot area for Lot 61 is 14,422.
Correct.
The minimum required is
15,000.
15,000.
Right.
So she's suggesting that you just shift the one of the lot lines to be able to get that additional square footage.
And we can do that. It's not a problem. It becomes a lot coverage, the impervious area.
Of course, and I think the board would be willing to, well, I can't speak for the board, but I think they can consider increasing that
Threshold?
threshold. Yeah.
I think we rely on our engineer to review it.
Sure.
It can be increased. If you do put in a rain garden, or if you do put in certain improvements that are going to show that it'll have a beneficial impact to water, surface water quality, right?
Right.
Then,
Stormwater quality controls will reduce potential water quality impacts to pre-development conditions.
and if we can make that proof, then we can go higher. And then I think you can make a nicer kind of cutoff with the lots that kind of benefit all the lots and not have strange configurations. And it may not even be that much more impervious after all is said and done when you do the calculation. Okay?
I understand the concept completely. If we have that kind of consideration, it definitely gives us a basis to do something with that lot line, that subdivision line.
And as, from my perspective, as I said, I'm one board member, but I like the fact that that 7,500 square foot, I believe it was, lot gets to be increased. Because it makes it more usable.
A note too, David, on the coverage. So the watershed protection overlay says you could increase it up to 35, but the maximum in the SR 15 is 25%. So I think you really got to be under that 25. That's what you should be aiming for.
So we will use the basis of 25%.
I think rather than the 35, I think you have to still be under that.
Right now, you're showing very close to 15.
Yeah.
Although I may disagree with that percentage, I think you're not much more than 15, so.
This is what I meant as far as the line, just literally, if you could straighten it a little more. But again, see how you are with your imperviouses.
I like the line. Looks nice.
All right. Board members, comments? Ashley, those were your comments? You were complete, okay. Jason? Jeff?
Okay.
You're good? Okay. Jeff?
So in relation to the stormwater.
On your mic. You must be mute.
Sorry. Thank you. In relation to the stormwater improvements that you can put in, I'd encourage you to use your eye as an architect. Keep in mind that this is, scenic buffer. It's along Lakes Road. It's nice properties, and to pick elements that would enhance the visual design there. The only thing I really had a question looking at the whole thing was, and we may have dealt with this issue before, but we've been working on this for a while, so forgive me if this is a rehash. Where the driveways become shared down by Lakes Road, there's a lot going on. I'm looking at sheet C3, and there's a lot going on down by the road, so I'm a little unclear as to where the property line was, but I thought that the town code doesn't permit shared driveways, they can be shared at the end, I guess, in the easement on a county road, but that on the actual properties, that it couldn't be shared. But it looks, again, based on what I'm seeing on the sheet, it looks like it would be. Am I incorrect on that?
I know what you're saying. I did look at that. I kind of went like this and said it was close enough to the right-of-way line, and so.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't raise the issue, but.
Yeah, I wasn't,
Thank you.
honestly, I wasn't
To be
quite
honest.
clear where the line was, so.
To be quite honest, that's what I did. so.
Okay. I mean, that works for me. I just didn't know. I'd hate for that to come and bite us back at the end. So I figured let's resolve it now.
Yeah, it's resolved.
Great.
Anthony?
No comment.
I have a
One
question.
note about that shared entranceway too, there'll have to be, of course, an easement and shared, maintenance for that the portion that's shared.
Would that require a separate, like, meets and bounds description? I mean, might as well prep it.
No, I don't, the county may require that. I know
In some way to
sometimes they
describe it.
do, sometimes they
Since
They
it's
don't.
on private property, I'd suggest that it be in meets and bounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll try to get all the descriptions right now, get it done.
So I just want to point it out, this is the scenic roads provision, and it says planning board may require shared entrances of adjoining driveways to minimize the number of curb cuts along the scenic road. Where a shared entrance is proposed, planning board may allow driveways to be located within required side yards. So it's something special to the scenic roads provision for purposes of minimizing disturbance along the roadway. Okay, Anthony? You're good?
I have
Lisa?
a question. David, you mentioned that the driveway was moved 10 feet to the west. Why was that moved?
So we needed to increase the sight distance for a car along.
That makes sense, that's right.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay. John, anything?
No comment.
Okay, Pat?
Nothing.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? All right, so we're going to do a notice of intent.
A motion to classify the action as unlisted and declare your intent to be lead agency and authorize planning board attorney to circulate a notice of intent.
So we have to do this because we can't do like an amended neg deck since the other application was withdrawn.
Yeah, it's essentially, that's how we had, treated it when it came back as the conventional.
Okay. So I will make a motion that we type this action an unlisted action and that the planning board circulate a notice of intent so that it can be lead agency for this proposed action. Second?
I'll second that.
Jeff? Take a,
Jason Sorinsky,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
John Legro,
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
And with that, the motion carries. And the need for any ZBA variance may be, it's going to depend on how you rearrange the lots and an impervious.
Yeah, no need for a variance.
Want me to include them as an involved just in case, so that way?
Include what?
That ZBA is an involved agency, just in the event,
Yeah, we're not, there's
No?
no way we're going
Okay.
to the ZBA. This Mike, everybody, we like you, it's all good. I'm going to see you in a few weeks, but,
Well,
yeah.
but keep in mind, I know you're saying no way, but, you want to allow some flexibility for the person who builds a house, if they want to go a little bit bigger or they want a little bit more, don't be so tight that they're basically stuck to a box. You know
This
what I
is
mean?
the one who's going to be living here.
Okay. So think about it, all right?
So, he's definitely involved. You could list him as the involved agency.
Okay. But again, with the balance being that there's mechanisms put in, or measures put into place to help water quality, because it's not just to increase it, but there has to be a benefit. All right, so I think we will wait to hear back from you as far as you'll send us revised drawings. Whatever water quality drainage demonstration you have to make for Sean to sign off, you'll provide that. You need to clearly get in contact with Orange County Sewer District, Moodna Basin, find out whether or not you're somehow grandfathered or
Well, we
You know,
have
or
the
what,
doc-
what is your status as far as sewer?
Well, we have the documentation from Moodna Basin regarding this last design. I mean, we definitely have that.
Right.
Now, that letter is a little bit cumbersome in that sense, so I'm not exactly sure, which way, what path we're going to travel on that. Again, I'll reiterate that they have been paying sewer tax for decades, so there
Right.
is some basis. I do realize your point, though. It needs to be addressed by Orange County Sewer, so we'll have to-
Yeah, I think it's because, once upon a time, I know with the Moodna Basin, well, first of all, as they were getting to capacity, they would hand out letters to applicants and saying, okay, you're being allocated so much and you're part of our calculation of whatever our allocation is. I think the question now is when you're over, at this point, Monroe is over their allocation, what happens? Are there certain projects that are grandfathered? If you're in the basin already, and you've been paying taxes, are you already grandfathered? We don't know that, but I think we need some confirmation of whether, in fact, they will give you sewer. So I would suspect if they gave it to you before, hopefully it'll be the same.
Well,
It's two different things with Moodna Basin versus Orange County.
Orange County Sewer District, right?
So with another municipality that is within the Moodna Basin, but is over the allocation.
Right.
I did have a meeting with Eric Denega, and he said that they will not allow additional users to be added,
When they're in the Moodna.
approved when they're in Moodna.
Because I thought this was in the Moodna.
It is.
Oh, okay. Right. Because the Moodna is part of, and their allocation ultimately, but they go to Orange County Sewer
Exactly.
District, into the Harriman plant.
Until either
Yeah.
I&I is dissolved or additional allocation is purchased,
Right, right.
which there is none to purchase currently.
Right.
I'm not sure how far the application can go.
Right. Because I know there are projects farther down in Lakes Road, again, in the Moodna, and there was this promise that, you were built into the calculations and you will be provided sewer. I don't know if that's happening anymore, or if that even stands anymore. So that's why I think you need to follow up with them.
So that information was presented to what entity? Who do we present that in?
Orange County
information
DPW.
It should be
Okay,
Eric
so it is a
Denega.
So
Eric
Eric
Denega and
Denega.
Bob Gray is the head of the environmental facilities.
Who?
Bob Gray.
They're both listed on that letter that I forwarded you.
Contact is, right. David, do you have any questions, or we're good now? We're good for now? So we'll do that circulation, and then you can send the plans in, and if it looks like they're pretty much in order, maybe we can send them to Orange County for planning comments?
You want to wait for new plans, or did you want to?
Right, when they come in. If whatever revisions are shown, we can then send them in.
But why not send them out now? I mean, any changes we make are not going to be significant in nature.
What do you think your turnaround time would be to send us something, or were you going to hold off?
Well, that's a hard question to answer right now because this permission for sewer is, it's a big obstacle right now before me. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out. And
You're going to hold off on maybe engineering something until you have, or
well, we've
designing something until you,
the designing aspects of anything remaining, the rain garden or anything to deal with the lot coverage is minor, in comparison to everything else. I mean, we got Orange County DPW permission on the drive. We have Moodna Basin on the sewer. Now this next wave with the sewer is a concern to me. So it's something that I think we really need to address.
so I would just, Ashley, in your opinion, should we hold off, or are these minor enough that?
I think you can send them, and it's not like a big change is going to happen necessarily. If there is, it will just get re-referred. you know, if something
If worse
drastic
came to worse,
changes.
we'd have to refer it again.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we'll send to Orange County then.
Maureen, do you have an extra set of plans, or you do that electronically now?
They've been asking electronically.
Okay.
I haven't asked for anything yet. But I think I have an extra set anyway. If not, Dave will send me one.
All right, do you have any questions, or you're good? Yeah. No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
You.
And let's see.
That was last.
Oh, look where we are. This is John Allegro's favorite part of the meeting. So do board members, you have any comments or anything you want to bring up in particular? No, we're good. Ward, quick, is there anything?
Sorry, Bonnie, just
Yeah,
a
sure.
reminder, I won't be at the next planning board meeting.
Okay, so you won't be here next Tuesday?
Yes.
Possibility I won't be here either.
Okay, that's 5 of us then. I think we're still good.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But
All
it's a
right.
possibility. I'll let you know.
Keep Noreen posted, just
Okay.
so that we make sure we have
All right, I will.
we're still good with the quorum, but,
Question. I think 2 meetings back, D&G Management, on, about drilling the wells. I don't know if they ever got in contact with us, how many trees they were going to disturb when they drilled the wells. I don't know what the status is.
EG managed,
They're on Tuesday.
they'll be here Tuesday.
Okay, so that's what I was waiting for, because we never heard anything from...
So I did reach out to John Queenan, and I was followed up with a phone call from LIPA, who said that they will not need to take any trees down in order to get the well rig in to install the wells.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, if there's no other business, would someone make a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Oh.
So moved, thank you, Pat. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jason. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you all.